Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my She-Hulk Episode 8 review. Because 8 is great, but this show really isn't. But then, that's not any surprise, I suppose. We'll get into it momentarily, but first, good morning to those of you who have joined me. Terai Deos, Fukin Kunt, Sarah Chapman, good morning. Hope you're all doing well, and those of you either in the future or who are lurking. So this is the penultimate episode of the She-Hulk Season 1, wherein we finally get a super villain-ish, kind of, Leapfrog. Leapfrog, who was more often a Spider-Man villain, but here he is in the flesh, and not as funny as the comic books, if you can believe it. Anyway, let's just get into it. So we start off with a little sort of backstory about where we are. We have Leapfrog looking a heck of a lot like Kick-Ass, even though Kick-Ass was created, after Leapfrog in the comics, but the outfit that Leapfrog is wearing here looks a lot like Kick-Ass. Anyway, he is stopping robbers at a supermarket or a warehouse store or something, except he's, if you can believe it, getting his ass kicked by the robbers. And he's like, "You didn't count on Guard Frog." And you're like, what the hell's a Guard Frog? I'm just acting like I'm the Guard Frog in this particular instance. I'm Leapfrog. Yeah, this is a flashback. So we have Eugene Patillo, which is the name of the character, or Eugene Patillo Jr., I should say, in the comic books, and he's talking to Jen Walters. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is Jen Walters' second super-powered or superhero or whatever client, even though she's the face of the superhuman law division, and most of her clients so far have either been regular people or have been handed off to her associates. Anyway, so what happened is that Eugene here tried to fight these guys who were stealing these giant TVs out in the brilliant strategy of these guys. They're couple hundred yards away from the entrance of the warehouse store. They're carrying televisions out to a van out in the middle of the parking lot, not behind the store where like the loading bay is, or they're close to an exit or an entrance or something, but somehow out here in the middle of the parking. Anyway, don't think about it too hard. I know I shouldn't. Anyway, so Leapfrog is trying to fight them, and he's failing, and he gets kicked down onto the ground, and so he lights off his rocket boots, and his rocket boots take him up in the air, and for a brief second, he's very Iron Man. Rocketing towards the air, and then of course the rocket boots sputter out, and he falls, and now he's got... The thing is, he falls like... What is that distance there, you think? Is that a couple 100 feet up in the air, though? Something like that? Anyway, he falls that distance, and his only injuries are apparently burns on his legs. So he's complaining to She-Hulk that his inflammable suit caught on fire. All right? I want you to remember this. His inflammable suit caught on fire. One more time, because it is very important. Inflammable suit. Okay, so he's complained to her about this, and he wants compensation for all his anguish and his pain and everything else. And she says, "Well, this does seem to be a clear case of manufacturer's defect." Just because he said so? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's the kind of, due diligence that our lawyer is doing here. And why am I bringing this up? Well, because unlike every other episode of this series so far, there was a brief moment, where I was like, oh, they're actually doing some lawyering-ish in this show, which, is such a thin gruel for my starving stomach in this show that I was given hope for just a moment. But then I started thinking about what I was being told and how the show was setting this up, and I was like, no, No, it's still pretty bad. Anyway, so she says, you're owed compensatory damages. He gets all excited. Woohoo, I get money. Even though we find out later that money really isn't an object to this guy. We'll find out that later. Anyway, who designed the suit? Oh, it was Luke Jacobson. It was the guy who designs her suits and clothes and things. Uh-oh, conflict of interest. I'll be supporting a client against my tailor. What will I do? Anyway, so boss guy here, once again, tells her, yeah, well, your client has decided to sign a waiver of conflict, so he doesn't care that you already have a business relationship with the person that he's suing. I would think that maybe the person who is being sued might have a problem with her in this context. I'm not quite sure how recusal or conflict of interest works on the other direction, but either way, apparently she's just going to represent this guy against her own tailor, and there's no problem with that. But she's all worried because he'll never make outfits for me again. If I represent somebody against him, he'll never make outfits for me again. You know all those outfits he made for me? The two outfits that we saw him actually make for her, and then of course the bridesmaid outfit, which he didn't make for her but was still of the same design, and of course all the outfits she was wearing before she ever met that guy, which seemed to work just fine for her. But anyway, no, he won't make any suits. And she has her big gala coming up for her female lawyer of the year award. She needs her gala gown and it's not done yet. Do you think maybe Pug could take this one? Like, that's going to change the guy's mind, really. Anyway, apparently Eugene, Leapfrog's father, Eugene Patillo Sr., is one of their biggest clients, which is interesting because in the comic books, both Eugenes were usually pretty much down on their luck. But apparently, Eugene Patillo Sr. is one of their biggest clients. So they're going to humor the younger Patillo and fulfill his desire to have a Hulk representing him, because that's cool. It's important that we keep the Patillos happy. Uh-huh. Eugene is also very excited to have a Hulk on the case. Yes. Okay. I like my nice clothes, and I don't want to piss him off. He made you 2 outfits that we've seen so far. Well, actually, no, we haven't seen the superhero outfit. He made you 1 outfit that you wore, right? And then, yeah, there was the dress, and there was the superhero outfit. And then there's the gala ball thing coming up. But somehow he didn't make you the bridesmaid's outfit and none of the clothes that you're wearing right now. But anyway, she's concerned about her clothes. You've handled a client who had to sign a conflict waiver before. In a case one would argue is a lot more personal than this one. Yes, the case with Blonsky, which you just kind of walked through. Anyway, so he suggests she go talk to Jacobson and come to some kind of arrangement out of court so they don't have to go to court and settle the conflict amicably in some way. So she shows up to his shop, and he's apparently working on her dress as she walks in. I also want to point something out. I'm not sure if this is right or not, but I'm just looking at her height in this scene, how she's represented height-wise, and maybe it's just the angle, I don't know, but it just seems like she shrinks between that scene and the next scene. And I know that she's far away from the guy in this instance and everything, but as you get up here, I'm like, is she just shorter to me in this scene than she was presented in the last? It might just be angle. Anyway, so she shows up, and she says, Luke, I'm here because your outfit that you made a client suffered serious injuries. And he's like, how dare you? My work is perfect. I never make any mistakes. And how dare you do this? And she's like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be doing this, and please still make my dress, but can we settle this out of court or something? Because there's no lawsuit yet. And if you just take some responsibilities for some of my client's injuries... and he says, my work speaks for itself. Now, this will come up later, but what are his injuries? What were the circumstances of the defect? Right? what were the boots supposed to do? What was the suit supposed to do? How did he treat this equipment? Was the equipment damaged by the client before he got it? Was it outside of the warranty, if there was a warranty for supersuits? Did any of these questions come up to our lawyer to ask her client before she took on the case or before she proceeded? No! And we'll find that out in relatively short order. Anyway, so Luke gets ticked off that she's trying to call his work shoddy or something, and so he starts ripping up her dress that he's working on for her. And she's all, I prepaid for that. Now I'm gonna take you down. I'm a girl. And then we get the title sequence, and then we're in court. And so Eugene is up with his feet on the table because he's an irresponsible child, of course. And She-Hulk is sitting there, and Luke is all by himself. And the judge is like, are you representing yourself? And then She-Hulk turns to her client and says, start planning on how you're going to spend all your new money. Because he's sitting there without a lawyer. And she's all like, haha, I got this in the bag. And he's like, of course I'm not representing myself, Your Honor. I'm not a fool. And then all of a sudden, in comes the man of the hour, Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock, who has apparently traveled all the way from New York to get Luke Jacobson to make him an outfit. That is the only reason he is in town. Every other instance of Matt Murdock needing to be in town is a result of this scene. So, I guess he needed... Yeah, he came to Los Angeles from New York so that Luke Jacobson could make him the yellow and red Daredevil costume. Because there was nobody on the East Coast that could do that for him, I guess. That's it. He's not here, because he was following a lead from New York to here. No, he's just here for that. That's it. And so he's here to defend his client, who just happens to be the guy that made his super suit and also knows his secret identity as a result. So anyway, so Matt says, apologies for the tardiness, Your Honor. I had trouble finding parking, because I'm blind and everything. And he's like, I'm just kidding. My driver got lost. Right. So anyway, he sits down, and Jen is like, who's this guy? That's a great, that should be the thumbnail right there. That's a great pause right there. Anyway, so now we get into the one scene I've watched in this series so far where they actually start talking legal minutia about product liability, and specifically, Jennifer is wanting the disclosure of all of Mr. Jacobson's other clients in order that she may investigate if there have been any other instances of his work having been problematic or, malfunctioning or something. Her argument is that in order to get the best defense for her client, she knows the total extent of the respondent's work history and so on. All right. Let's see, so you want to find out if there are any other clients sustaining injuries from faulty merchandise. And Matt argues, well, here's the thing. Mr. Jacobson has a clientele in a very special circumstance. He makes clothes for people whose identities are meant to be kept secret because they are superheroes and because their lives or the lives of their loved ones may come into danger if they are exposed in this way. He also says that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. And I think that might be the first time I've heard that in the Marvel Universe. So the whole thing about superhumans or those being super vigilantes needing to register with the government or disclose their identities, that's no longer law. So now it's a matter of choice. And so Matt is arguing that privacy, confidentiality, in the case of Mr. Jacobson's client list, is important and should not be violated in this instance. And let's see. Jennifer says, this is a very common procedure in product liability lawsuits. This type of malfunction has affected other people. There is no inherent right to privacy when employing Mr. Jacobson's tailoring services. All right. And then Matt says, the very nature of Mr. Jacobson's line of work, making suits exclusively for superheroes, necessitates anonymity. May I remind you that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. As public figures, it is assumed that there will be some loss of privacy, Jen says. Yeah. Now, but superheroes who have enemies who will try to harm them, and people close to them. Miss Walters chose to have her identity be public. If this information is not protected, not only would it ruin my client's career, but put many people's lives at risk. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is the first time in this series where they take an actual kind of almost feeling real legalistic analysis of a superhero situation. And I'm like, okay, this is the first shining spot in this entire thing where the whole attorney at law thing and superhero crossover deal actually matters for a second. But only for a second, because this is as much as we will ever probably get. Because it doesn't go any further than that. The judge just agrees with Matt Murdock, and he says the motion to compel discovery is denied. Okay, so that means that She-Hulk can't get a list of his clients to show a pattern of faulty merchandise. That's all it shows. It doesn't mean that she can't still proceed with the complaint to the outfit her client has alone. She just can't show a pattern. Okay, that's what my mind is doing as I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, well, that's just your first round done, right? This is going to continue. And then suddenly, apparently he brought the suit with him, Eugene did. He says, how am I supposed to wear this? And then Matt Murdock, across the room, audibly sniffs. Mr. Patillo, what kind of fuel did you use in your boosters? I want you to recall, first and foremost, that his complaint, Eugene's complaint, was about the inflammable suit resulting in burns. Okay? But anyway, what kind of fuel did you use in your boosters? And he said, jet fuel. He says, wait a minute, use jet fuel in your boosters? Because that's not what my instructions said. Well, I gotta ask, like, what fuel would you have used otherwise for rocket jets? Like, what kind of fuel should have been used? They don't say. But anyway, so Eugene's like, and then the judge is just like, if the plaintiff ignored the manufacturer's explicit instructions, then the defendant is absolved of all liability. So wait a sec. The rocket boots are the problem now. The complaint was the inflammable suit ended up resulting in burns. We've seen this guy do nothing but be a tailor of outfits, of cloth, of textiles, not a producer of rocket boots. But anyway, because he used the wrong fuel in rocket boots, what the proper fuel was, we don't know. And how rocket fuel worked in something not made to use rocket fuel, I don't know. But anyway, because the rocket boots failed, the whole thing's dismissed. This wasn't a hearing on the motion for discovery. This was apparently the entire thing. He dismissed the whole deal on this. So my brief shining light of, oh my god, actual legal procedure in a superhero show about an attorney superhero absolutely disappeared. Like, okay, this is still stupid. This still doesn't make any sense. This is still badly written. They obviously didn't get somebody to consult with them on this episode. They just kind of... Yeah. Anyway, so now that the case is over, Jen's like, is there any way you could go back to being my tailor now? The guy's like, no. Go away. And she's like, sad. Oh. It's not that you are an incompetent lawyer. It's not that you didn't research the actual events of your client's injury, ask him questions about how he handled the merchandise beforehand, ask him if there was any possibility that it could have been tampered with or damaged, or did he do something that he shouldn't have been doing with it before you went on trial or to the motion or whatever the hell, even though this all shouldn't have happened in one sitting, but whatever. No, it's not that you're an incompetent lawyer. The most important thing right now is that you get your tailor back for your dresses. Who would want this person as their attorney for anything, superhero or otherwise? Every instance of her throughout this entire series has shown nothing but the worst incompetence you can have as a lawyer. Or just easy street, there are no barriers, obstacles, or anything, whatever. But, okay, so she looks like a complete moron, which she is, and then she's suddenly at the bar because, you know, she spends a lot of time at bars. And she's wearing her outfit, which looks like she's a tiny person inside a giant outfit, because I thought that these outfits were supposed to, like, conform to her human and Hulk forms in some way. That was the whole point of having a tailor that, you know, made these things. But anyway, she's got clothing she can wear in any case. But then Matt Murdock's there, and Matt buys her an Appletini from across the bar. Appletinis. Yum. Anyway, so Matt Murdock comes over and starts flirting with her. I wanted to extend a peace offering. Ugh, I hate it when people take the high road. Yeah, I figure you would. I figure you would, since you're kind of a low road, petty revenge kind of person. Yeah, it sucks when people are professional. But you flew all the way out here for a product liability case? Luke Jacobson made a couple of new suits for me, so I owed him one. Wait a second. You mean Luke Jacobson, the I make outfits exclusively for superheroes, made you a couple of suits? Could Matt Murdock, in this instance, be any more dumb about secret identities and everything? But, you know, whatever. We have to be coy or whatever. And she says, you need a superhero suit? Doesn't really look like it. That's a low blow, insulting a blind man's clothes. Or I think, no, I take it back. I think she was commenting on his actual suit that he's wearing, and that it doesn't look fancy. So I guess that's the dig. I don't know. Anyway, you have your own practice, right? She asks of this guy she's never heard of before. And you made my dumb client admit he lied. How did you know about the jet fuel? Yeah, that is an interesting question. Well, he didn't know about the jet fuel. He just asked, what kind of fuel did you use in the rocket boots? But he did sniff audibly ahead of time. He says, a hunch. Anyway, she talks about her client as having rich parents. And his dad's a very important client, and that's why he was a client and everything else. And then he goes through some legal talk. You know, you take one case for them and one for us. You know, a case that has some moral value to you and whatever, and you do a case occasionally to pay the bills. Well, I've had to do that from time to time. He says, I do on occasion take a job with a bigger client. And she says, as someone who works for them full-time... Oh, yes, you're totally giving up your morals and your grand crusade just to make $1, just to pay the bills. Yes, because all the cases you've taken on so far and your attitude about them so far have been so benevolent. Oh, you're such a crusader for justice and the system and the law. Yeah. Well, gosh, you're such a victim, having a job handed to you after being inexplicably fired from your other job. And then he gives her a pep talk. He says, I think you're in a unique position to do some real good. Jen Walters can use the law to help people when society fails them. She-Hulk can help people when the law fails them. Oh, yeah, it would be nice, save for the fact that she's explicitly done no superheroing at all so far. Actively avoided it, derided it, made fun of people who do it, made fun of people who save the entire universe, you know, for that kind of stuff. But anyway, so you can, if you choose, he starts, and she finishes. If I can find the frame. Come on. It was right there. Be the best of both worlds. You hear that, everybody? Jen Walters, She-Hulk, attorney at law, can be the best of both worlds. Aw, isn't that great? She's perfect. Practically perfect in every way. On both sides of the aisle. Oh, thanks, Matt Murdock. And he's got to go. He's got a call. He's got to go. And she turns to the camera and she says, "We're all feeling this, right? It's not just me." And I'm sitting there going like, oh, I'm feeling it all right. I'm feeling like the writers have contrived an excuse for Daredevil and She-Hulk to have a one-night stand. That was my thought going into this. He's not going to hang around for more than one episode. We know he's only in this one episode. So there really is only one shot for them to hook up. And so obviously we have to have She-Hulk bang Daredevil. And we have to have a very, very thinly contrived excuse for them to have some attraction to each other. When I'm thinking to myself, Matt Murdock bagged Elektra Nachios. Just like, I don't know. I mean, maybe being blind helps. I don't know. But either way. So she gets a text from Todd. Do you remember Todd? Because I took a moment to have to remember Todd. And Todd was one of the guys she went out on the dating series with as She-Hulk. He was the guy with the scarf. And so Todd says, "I have a legal issue I would like to discuss immediately." And when Todd comes up, I'm like, why are they bringing this guy up at this late state in the series? Is he the bad guy? That was my first thought. Like, why bring this guy back? And more curiously, where is the guy that was in like episode 1 or 2 who came up to the table when Jen and Nikki were having a drink and like tried to invite himself to their table? That guy's got to show up again, right? We're going to have some like big reveal of him. Because I'm thinking like, whenever something happens, I talked about this last time, Chekhov's gun, as some of you in the audience reminded me, Chekhov's gun. You never bring something up and make it very specific and very notable that this is brought up unless it's going to revisit the story in some way. I'm still thinking about that guy. But I'm being reminded of Todd. Why am I being reminded of Todd? Well, let's find out. So anyway, why does the fetish guy want to talk to me now? I can't imagine. A guy who has a She-Hulk fetish wants to talk to you? And so Matt comes back and he's like, "No, I got business, I got to split." And she's like, "Yeah, I got work too. So I'll talk to you later." Yeah, and he gets all like flustered, like leaving, like he wants to say something or like flirt some more or what. And this guy's paying a lot of attention for no reason, I guess, except that he's there. Anyway, so she gets all googly eyes at him. And then, boy, that smile. It's probably good that Matt can't see that smile. He'd just be knocked over, I figure. Like, yeah, okay, bye. And so then she gets a call again from Todd. Said, "I was assured that GLK&H was a 24/7 firm. Can I call Holloway and ask if that's accurate?" Why is he a client again? He's not a superhuman. I thought she was in charge of the superhuman law division. Why is she his lawyer? They went out on a date. Why is she representing him again for anything? If they explain this somehow in a passing comment in a previous episode, it has gone whew. But anyway, so he's demanding her presence in the middle of the night over at a bar. So she shows up as She-Hulk. Because reasons, I guess. So you know that this guy is a She-Hulk fetishist. So you decide to feed into his issue? Somehow? Anyway, so what do you want to discuss with me? And he's like, "Oh yeah, so I was at an auction recently buying art. And then, get this, they had an authentic Wakandan war spear. A Wakandan war spear? Oh my gosh, isn't there like a movie coming up soon? Anyway, so I, of course, win the auction. Millie chuckles. And we get this frozen look on her face. This was the one moment in the show where it almost reached a moment of comedy. And he's like, $1 million. $1 million. Anyway, okay, so this guy's a millionaire? That was news to me when he's talking about like just throwing away $1 million at an auction. I was like, oh, this guy's like super rich? Okay, I guess. I never got that sense before, unless the scarf was supposed to tell me that. Anyway, he says, yeah, so yeah, you got to see it, right? And he shows a picture of himself with a Wakandan war spear, which has to be made out of vibranium. The most rare and most powerful or, you know, invulnerable metal on the planet. And he only paid $1 million for it? For a spear of pure vibranium? Are you kidding me? Remember when Captain America's shield was made? And how Howard Stark said it's made out of pure vibranium. It's the only sample we have because it's such a rare metal and you never see it outside of Wakanda. There's only one place in the world to get it. This guy only pays $1 million for a Wakandan war spear of vibranium? Okay, well, anyway, yeah, so he bought this thing. And he says, you know, oh, no one is collecting African shit on my level. I love it. I love Wakanda. You know, I actually studied abroad there. How? It is an isolationist, invisible nation. The actual nature of Wakanda is not revealed to the public. That's why they have that shield that protects its being detected from satellites or just people walking by. It's invisible to the rest of the... You studied abroad. I mean, maybe he's lying. Okay, maybe he's just lying. It's possible. I'll allow for that possibility. Anyway, so he does the Wakandan salute. Wakanda forever! And she's like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. Does it? Makes the rest of us uncomfortable too because it's so silly, but why does it make you uncomfortable? Okay, anyway. So, is there a legal issue with your purchase, she asks. And he's like, I can't fall in the frame, can I? Okay, says, no, well, okay, they want it back. You know, because they say it was, like, stolen by colonizers. Uh-huh. Yeah, so you're in possession of stolen goods. Where was this auction? Who was putting this auction on for a pure vibranium spear at $1 million? I mean, maybe it was a supervillain auction. I don't know. Anyway, but whatever. I mean, I got the receipts. If you have receipts of receiving stolen property, that's not in your favor. Anyway, so he starts handing her a glass of wine, which she immediately hands back to the other side of the table. And he's like, you know, listen, babe. Let's just drop the whole koi thing. And I can feel it, and I can tell we're both feeling it. And so she gets up, shoves the table into his chest, and makes a big scene and stomps off. Like, okay. And I cannot help... I cannot help in that scene, as awkward as they set it up, and obviously he's a creep because that's his character, I cannot help but think to myself, that's almost exactly what she was saying to the camera earlier after she had a 2-second conversation with Matt Murdock. And it really is all about the delivery, I suppose, but how is one not creepy and one is in the same instance? I don't know. Anyway, so she stomps off, and she's back at her apartment, and she's like, oh, I'm tired. It's been a long day. Because I failed my case because I'm an incompetent lawyer, and then the guy that I was crushing on had to leave, and then a creep, like, hit on me. even though I'm invulnerable and could beat him up, whatever. And so she gets a call from Eugene, Leapfrog. And he says, listen, you gotta help me. I think I'm being attacked. Legally or physically? She asks, as you can hear the desperation and yelling in his voice and the sounds of a car running. Definitely physically, but I mean, maybe legally too. So he's in this souped-up sports car, which... Does that look red to you? Does that little piece of the car look red to you? It looks a little red, right? The interior's red. I mean, I guess it could be. Anyway, so she gets called and she's like, hey, you're just close by. I'm heading to you. We'll meet in the middle. And then at the door, she pauses and she thinks to herself, now's the time. And she goes and gets her super suit. And so Eugene is heading up this parking garage, but the car is green. I'm not a car guy. Does the interior paint of a car not usually match the exterior of the car, if there is going to be any? Maybe that's just me. Anyway, so he's coming... God, this happened so fast. He comes up to the top of the parking garage, and this guy is on top of the car, smashing in the window. Right? And so he comes up to the top of the parking garage, and She-Hulk is there in her new super suit, which is just... looks like exactly the same thing she was wearing on Bruce Banner's island. Right? Or am I completely off base here? Didn't she have this or a similar outfit on Bruce's island? How is this any different than that? Why did she need a special tailor to make that for her? I don't know. Anyway, she stops the car by putting her leg in front of it and crushing the front side of it, and then Daredevil flips off and lands, and we get the little scene of him turning mysteriously towards her. And she tells Eugene to get out of here. So Eugene drives off. And Daredevil says something like, you really should step aside. And she says, and waste this outfit? So then they start fighting. Eugene's taken off, and now they're running around fighting. And he flips and he dodges her, and she stomps and everything, and she says, now I'm gonna whoop your ass, she says. And so she stomps into the concrete and breaks the parking garage in half. Okay, that's just point one. Daredevil flips out of the way, and he says, wow, my ass is decidedly unwhooped. Ha 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 ha. Oh, sorry, my ass remains unwhooped. I apologize. And she says, yeah, let's fix that. And so he jumps off the roof and sort of monkey bars his way down the various levels of the parking garage down to the bottom. And Eugene's getting away, and he's chasing after Eugene. Yeah, Leapfrog's catchphrase is ribbit and rip it. That's the name of the episode you might have seen up here in the corner. Anyway, so She-Hulk jumps down from the parking garage roof and lands because, well, she's a Hulk and she can do that. She's like, where are you going? We're not done. Now, rather than actually talk to She-Hulk, because Matt knows who She-Hulk is, right? Rather than tell her why he's doing this, why he's here, informing her of this, which we'll find out momentarily, he continues to not say anything and fight her. So she picks up what has to be, I don't know, a $500,000 sports car? I don't know, and is going to throw it at this man. Okay, as far as I could tell, he has done nothing but dodge her attacks and avoid her. So she's going to pick up a ridiculously expensive car, which is just, a side deal, but either way, she's going to throw this ridiculously expensive car at a living person. She's not fighting the abomination here. Okay, if she was fighting the abomination, I could kind of see it. Anyway, she throws a car at Daredevil, and of course he dodges it because he's Daredevil. And Daredevil might get a sense here for a second, like, whoa, wait a second. Deadly force? Not trying to apprehend me, not trying to incapacitate me, deadly force? Okay, but no, that never comes up. Eugene gets away, he's flipping around, and then She-Hulk uses the sonic clap on Daredevil. Now remember what Daredevil's superpower is, right? I mean, all of his senses aside from his sight are ramped up to the roof. He can hear heartbeats from across the city, right? Okay, she's using a sonic clap on him. He gets knocked into a car, falls down, and we get one scream of pain from him for a second. Whereas he would be deafened for like a day. You know, he's learned how to sort of manage his senses so that he can function in the normal world, but they don't get turned off. He doesn't like turn the volume down. He's just able to concentrate. They're still on. But she uses a sonic clap, and Daredevil is able to stand up and speak and be coherent and hear her and everything else immediately thereafter. Okay, anyway, she picks him up and takes his helmet off and recognizes him as Matt Murdock's like, what? Matt? What? Where'd my subtitles go? There's a piece of dialogue here that I really want to fall on. Come on. Where is it? Oh, come on. Is it really that minute? Okay. So she turns back into regular Jen and says, wait, did you pretend to be a blind man? Because that's really problematic. Is it? Is that what the showrunners think of the actor who himself is not blind? Or is this a commentary on how Charlie Cox shouldn't be playing I don't know. I can't tell anymore because the line between the writers and the character is non-existent. So are you criticizing Charlie Cox for having this role? I have to ask the question. Anyway, so he's like, no, I'm not blind. I am blind. It's just that I have enhanced senses. And she's like, why are you attacking my client? That's a good question. You'd think Daredevil, a smarter person and character in this show, or at least in the universe, than She-Hulk would have like told her ahead of time. But apparently, Eugene kidnapped Luke Jacobson to make him a new supersuit. So Eugene, who is so wealthy from his parents, he never has to worry about money, he has a super expensive car and so on, kidnapped this guy to make him a supersuit. What was his plan after that? Don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so Daredevil's trying to find out where Luke is being held. Now, why was Eugene anywhere other than where Luke was being held? How did Luke let Matt know that he was being kidnapped? To track down Eugene and attack him? Never answered, never asked. Nobody cares. And so she starts making fun of his outfit. Like, who are you supposed to be, the Gold Devil? And he's like, dude, I'm Daredevil. And she's like, oh. Anyway, so they go to a place called the Lily Pad. Because Leapfrog, the superhero, has a secret lair called the Lily Pad with neon on it. And Luke is being held captive, and he's like, I want bulletproof shields on my suit, and I want all this other stuff, and it's fine. And there are all these other guys around. And I'm like, did he kidnap other workers? Because they look like they're working on, there's a diving helmet, and there's like a tailor's model. And so did he like kidnap Luke's whole staff? Or just the guy? Or I don't know. Anyway, so he says, look, I know you're just being mean because I kidnapped you. Like, what? Okay. Anyway, so without any work at all, Daredevil and She-Hulk end up at Eugene's hideout. And they have some banter on the rooftop. And, you know, for what it is, and I'm reaching here, it's okay. I mean, there's some back and forth where he's like talking about how he's going to approach this situation. And they start arguing over the difference between goons and henchmen. Which is, you know, it's one of those things that I'm thinking in a different show, under a different writing staff, this might be really funny. And it was cute. That's as much as I can give it. It was cute. And Daredevil says, henchmen believe in the cause, goons are just there for a paycheck. Like, okay, all right, I guess that could be the case. So anyway, they're looking in on this thing, and Daredevil says, and by the way, I'm looking at this costume, and I know from pictures and everything that it is modeled, I mean, like, everything about this outfit is exactly the same as it was in the Netflix show, as far as I can tell. The design, the whole 9 yards. It may, in fact, just be a repainted stunt costume or something from that series. All the same, it's still, the helmet especially, it just looks cheap. It just doesn't look quite right. And just even setting aside the color scheme, it just doesn't look like it fits right. It looks a little... And, you know, if somebody gave me a photo from the Netflix series and showed me side by side, I was exactly the same. Okay, I'll rescind it. But all the same, it just looks kind of... Maybe it's the lighting. I don't know. Anyway, so he counts off how many people are in the building. And she says, how do you know that? And he says, I can hear their heartbeats. You can hear their heartbeats? Come on, that's a little far-fetched. You are a tiny woman who turns into a jolly green giant on command. You just fought a blind man and watched him jump off a parking garage and land safely on the ground below. That's a little far-fetched. After he told you that he has enhanced senses. Okay, well anyway, that's a little far-fetched. So he listens to her heartbeat, and he says, I can hear yours too. Your heart's beating pretty fast. Because, well, with that look, obviously, we know why her heart's beating fast. Not because that she's, you know, getting ready to go attack a supervillain squad and has her adrenaline up or anything. No, she's aroused. Anyway, and she's like, what? No, it's not. I'm healthy. What does your heart beating fast have to do with being healthy? What? I don't know. Anyway, I guess she was flustered and he knows that he's got her, because there's no doubt, because the writers want us to know this. Anyway, so he says, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to take out these guys. Each one will take me this amount of time. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And she's like, what, I'm just supposed to wait up here while you take out these guys in like 10 minutes? And he's like, that's not how math works. Because he explained like how many seconds it would take to take down each guy or whatever. And she's like, how about I just smash in there and take care of it? I'm not going to sit here for half an hour while you pick off goons one by one. And he's like, yeah, but they have weapons, Jen. And she's like, yeah, good thing She-Hulk is indestructible, Matt. Yeah, but, you know, maybe Matt isn't. Maybe there are other people down there. Maybe the hostage isn't. Does that ever occur to her? Does that ever occur to Matt to mention to her? No. But whatever. And he's like, stealth's the way to go. I've done this a million times. You see, here you have an experienced superhero talking to not even a novice. This is her first outing in anything that could be considered a superhero capacity, right? But she knows better. So, but they can't necessarily have her show up Daredevil in that regard because it's Daredevil and everybody loves Daredevil. If you make Daredevil look like an absolute fool, you're definitely going to be turning off the audience that came here specifically for Daredevil. It's like, have you broken into a warehouse full of goons before, he asks her. Yeah. And she says, remind me again who has the superpowers here. You just had a standoff with a blind man who jumped off of a parking garage and somersaulted his way to safety, dodged a car you threw at him, and can hear your heartbeat and the heartbeats of everybody in that room, and you're asking the question, who has the superpowers here? Are you kidding me? Well, anyway, so yeah, she's all full of herself. And he jumps off the roof, and she's like, well, that's pretty cool. You mean the thing that he did just a few minutes ago when you were fighting him and did it from a much higher distance from the ground? Okay, well anyway, so now we get a very badly lit hallway scene. And I'm thinking, okay, we all saw the Daredevil hallway fight scene in episode 2 of the Netflix series. It is probably one of the most exhilarating, visceral action scenes that you can find. Right? It's so well done, and even though it looks like it's done in one shot, it's not. There are some very, stealthy edits in there. But either way, it is presented as a one shot, one sequence, and some of those segments were so long. I mean, those guys, it really looked like a knockdown, drag-out fight. And I'm thinking, okay, if there's one thing they can't screw up here, please, is Daredevil fighting guys in a hallway. So you have these guys in the hallway, and they're talking about stuff. They're like talking about the names that Eugene wanted to call them by, like tadpoles. Because Eugene apparently, and it might be kind of funny, only knows how supervillains work from like the 1960s Batman show. Anyway, so suddenly they hear a noise, and so they arm themselves with crossbows. I'm not kidding. Everybody has either one of two things, a crossbow or a crowbar. So all these guys are in a dark hallway. They're armed with one-shot machines, crossbows, handheld crossbows, by the way. So they pull out crossbows as Daredevil walks in the door and he jumps off one wall. That's very Daredevil, right? Yeah, and then he dodges some crossbow bolts that fire at him. And then we have some very dead-ass, can I just say dead-ass fight scene. He punches a couple of guys and they fall down. They go for their crossbows again, and Daredevil's standing there, and then more guys show up with crossbows and a crowbar. Not a magical crowbar, mind you, just crossbows. And I'm thinking, okay, so he took down, what, 3 or 4 guys in the back there. We got 5 guys here. So we're just, I'll say 4 back there. Okay, so we've got 9 goons so far. All right, so Eugene has 9 paid guys willing to use crossbows on somebody. Okay. And so they charge after Daredevil, but before they can even do anything, She-Hulk busts through the roof and smashes them all to the ground. She-Hulk smash! Yeah, boy! I mean, go, girl! So then we're back in the main area of the hideout. So we got 9 guys down on the ground in the hallway, and the roof smashed in, and these guys, I guess, didn't hear it or something, or maybe they did, anyway. Oh yeah, then She-Hulk smashes through a wall. Okay, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more guys back here, at least. So at least 14 goons that Eugene has in his squad. Alright. And then do we get a really cool fight scene? Not really. Anyway, he's like, hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be helping me, he says to his lawyer after he's kidnapped somebody. And anyway, so, and Luke is just kind of like, yeah, bring it on, bring it on. So then we have a meaningless fight scene. And Jennifer says, Eugene, let me give you some legal advice. Stop now before you rack up even more serious charges. Well, he's not going to be able to do much more at this point because all the crimes he's committed, he's basically committed. So you can't really act as his lawyer now because you're going to have to, like, turn him over to the... I don't know how this is supposed to work now. Conflict of interest, maybe? Anyway, so... And then what happens? Well, she says, now, stop before you rack up even more serious charges, right? Legally speaking, we could say this is an episode of Mania, she says. And then Daredevil speaks up in the middle of having tossed a guy. Temporary insanity is murky, but it's not a bad strategy. And then he punches a guy. I'd angle this more as a form of traumatic expression due to undiagnosed PTSD, says Daredevil in the middle of a fight. And Eugene rightly asks the question, so the devil ninja guy, he's a lawyer? And he says, no, I'm just a big fan of legal dramas. Wow, you know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say Matt Murdock is the worst person in the world at maintaining a secret identity. But what do I know? Anyway, so some guy tries to hit Jen with a bat. This is the first time that she's ever attacked in this entire thing, and it's with a bat. And nothing happens, and he throws the guy aside into a puddle of water. And then Eugene tries to take off out a window or something, but he crash lands and breaks his leg. I'm just going to summarize the rest of this stuff because it's just nonsense. Anyway, so yeah, she's like, hey, Luke, now that I saved your life, can you, like, finish my prom dress? And he's like, yeah, of course, I'm not a monster. Try not to get too bloated between now and then, he says. Oh, what a burn. Oh, gosh. Anyway, she says, great to be strained professional acquaintances again. You're a customer, he's a vendor. That's it. Anyway, so Daredevil's sitting up on the roof, and then Jen comes up and sits down with them, and they're, like, flirting and stuff. And she's like, oh, you're so brooding. She says, thanks for your help with all of this. Your help? He was the one superheroing. You were the sidekick in this. What? No, you're the one who helped me. Like, what? Anyway. So if you can believe it, they banter back and forth slightly. He says, you were the woman who caused excessive property damage. Like, yeah, she did, didn't she? Ha ha, wee, ha ha. Is she got to pay for that car she smashed up? Probably not. She's going to need a lawyer from the guy that's going to sue her for that car. He's like, hey, maybe next time I'm in town, I can take you out to dinner. Yeah, or maybe we can just skip all of that and just... And they're having sex. Yep. So they do the dirty. The next day comes, and Daredevil is walking away with his shoes off because he snuck out walk of shame style in broad daylight. Anyway, Jen is now fully satisfied because, well, she got Daredevil and bagged him. And she asks a very good question, given the timing of all the other episodes. Doesn't it feel like this episode should be over? I wish it was. I wish it was. And then Nikki shows up. Why didn't you answer my calls? I thought you were dead. I had to break and enter, by the way. Oh, okay. I saw a guy in a devil suit, and he's doing the walk of shame because he's... whatever. Anyway, did you do the thing with the stuff? And he's like, yes, okay, all right. And are we happy? She's like, oh, yes, we're happy. And she said, all right, you're the devil. Ah! And she asks us again, a very astute question, seriously, what is this scene? And I'm asking myself, yeah, we're 25 minutes into this show and it's not over yet. Because these shows always go like 20 minutes. This episode already came to a very satisfying conclusion. Trust me. She's talking about an orgasm. Anyway, so Nikki has her suit, her dress, the dress that was just talked about. And says, wait, we're doing the gala? That doesn't feel right. She looks off side to the camera. Just like a tacked on set piece near the end of the season. Yeah. I mean, I could appreciate this kind of self-awareness on behalf of the writers if it was actually funny and not more an indictment of their lack of ability. But anyway. So, this is the big twist, isn't it? I don't know, is it? But what the question is it the kind of twist that's like, there's another Hulk, but this one's red? Talking about the Red Hulk, yeah. Or what was the other thing? Or like, I'm getting fridged. I mean, admittedly, I kind of wish you were getting fridged, and that reference is going to go over the heads of a lot of people. I'm not going to explain it here because why bother? Because they're being cute. But yeah, is she going to get killed, basically? Because that's what happens to all female characters, you know, eventually. They get fridged. Which has only ever happened one time in a comic book. But it was turned into some kind of, like, reference trope. It was called a trope, even though it only happened, like, one time, where it wasn't being self-referential in some way. Anyway, so then out pops Nikki, but she's got a bunch of makeup stuff between her fingers like claws, indicating Wolverine, which would be really cool if, like, you know, Wolverine showed up, but he doesn't, to fight a Hulk. So, yeah. Anyway, so she's got to do her makeup because the gala's tonight. So she's got to spend, what, 12 hours putting on makeup? Because the gala's at night now? So we're at the awards gala for Female Lawyer of the Year, and she comes out in her sparkly dress that we saw in the previews, and oh boy, she looks... We have a L'Oreal moment where she's like waving her hair out, like, oh my gosh. You know, maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. Anyway, she walks down the red carpet, she looks all fancy. Mom and Dad are there. Sweetheart, you didn't bring a jacket? What if you get cold? Anyway, oh, and there was a shot of the creepy Wakandan spear guy there, too. Whatever his name was. Todd, Rod, whatever. So he's at this gala, too, for some reason. And we are so proud of you, Dad says. For what? The female lawyer of the year lost a product liability case. Like, yesterday. She's a terrible lawyer. She's not even a lawyer. She just kind of stands there and, like, bad dialogue surrounds her. Anyway, so, they're getting ready to go in, and Todd is there, and she tries to avoid Todd, even though she's, like, invulnerable and everything, but he's a millionaire or something. Anyway, so we go in here, and this guy says, oh, God, what is it? Now we have to go one. Oh God, I hate falling on these frames. I wish I could, like, you know, scan bit by bit. Anyway, he says, we're here to celebrate female lawyers, doing everything regular lawyers do, except backwards and in heels. What? Okay. Anyway, so this year's Female Lawyer of the Year award goes to Jen She-Hulk Walters. Yay! And then he names off like 5 other people. Kara Hunter, Alice Chen, Mallory Book. Remember Mallory Book? Remember the lawyer that wouldn't have She-Hulk as a client unless she looked like something other than a sports star fighting a DUI or something, except she was wearing the same clothes that she always wore. Anyway, so now a whole line of women are on the stage holding these awards. He's like, now tell us, what's it like being a female lawyer? Because that's how real people talk, I guess. And She-Hulk is all happy. Mallory's not impressed. The First Lady's like, so special and empowering. I love it. And then on to Mallory. Twice the work, half the recognition. And you're constantly being asked what it's like being a female lawyer. Well, hey Mallory, I got a tip for you. If you receive a notification of having won an award called Female Lawyer of the Year, you can always decline if you feel it's insulting, and I think it might actually be, but you know, you showed up. Anyway, so Jen's like, I'd like to thank my parents and my friends and my esteemed colleagues. And then suddenly behind her, a little Hulk King thing pops up. And if you'll remember, this showed up and was mentioned several times in previous episodes with the Intelligentsia, the evil Reddit 4chan thing in the Marvel Universe that, like, talks dirty things about superheroes or something. Anyway, do you want to see who She-Hulk really is? And she's like, my identity is not a secret. This is the truth presented by Intelligentsia. So now we have these two characters who we've never seen before, but you got tall guy and short guy. So tall guy and short guy. And if those masks are from something in the comic books, I don't recognize it. Anyway, so they start presenting on the screen all these, like, photos that she's got on her phone. And all these matches that she made on the Tinder app. And all this other stuff, like all her personal information, right? And of course a picture of Captain America, because the first thing in the show was like, is Captain America a virgin? Talking about his butt and everything. Okay, so there's all this stuff about Jen on there, and I can't read all of it, but it's got like her bills and her text messages or whatever. But then the creme de la creme of the whole thing is there's a video. Remember when really nice guy, what was his name? Pete or something? Anyway, or George or whoever the guy was, whoever the plant was. The guy that slept with her and then left, and then she went off to the wedding. Yeah, so he took a secret video of them making out having sex. Right? And they're like, turn this off. Oh my God. Audience is gasping. Oh my gosh, a woman was surreptitiously filmed while having sex. Oh no. Who's the victim here? Right? As though is this shocking? Is it like a revelation? Like, but Jen, she can't take it. She can't take this embarrassment, I guess. Or she can't take her reputation being destroyed somehow by someone secretly filming her having sex. So she... Oh, and see, there's her bottom. Her bottom in her shorts is showing, guys. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And so she smashes the screens. And she's not just smashing the screens. She has gone full Hulk rage. She is growling and snarling. Remember, guys, this is the lady who has all the control over all of her emotions so much better than the Hulk. Boy, she got proven wrong here. So she loses it, smashes the screens, tears down the wall. Suddenly, everybody's scared. And rightfully so, because she's lost control and lost her mind over this. Over what? I'm not sure. I mean, admittedly, there's some embarrassment there. Yeah. What was shown on the screen, I couldn't read it, so I don't even know what the problem is. Everybody knew about her dating habits because that's a matter of public record in the court case we saw 2 episodes back. So I'm not quite sure what... But anyway, so she goes nuts And then she spots some guys in the back of the room who have masks on. And it is an artifact of the last 2 years with the pandemic that I see this, and audience member guy, I don't have an immediate reaction to this because I'm just like, what? And I was like, oh, wait, that's right. In this world, there is no pandemic, so those guys wearing masks. Why are they there? Well, I guess they're the ones hijacking the signal and projecting the thing on the screen. Because this guy's holding... They're all holding phones, or they're taking pictures. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who these guys are. I don't know why they're there, but they're there. So she assumes that these guys are doing this, which may be true. I don't know. But anyway, so she chases after the guy, and he escapes through the front door. She smashes through the wall to get him, even though he was within her line of sight. And this has to be a completely different room from the exit that this guy's coming out of. But she smashes through the wall of this place and grabs this guy. And before you know it, there are 7 guys and guns and authorities there. And like, what? What? Huh? How? Who? She snarls like a monster, and then she looks at the camera like, I'm as confused as she is. And that's the end of the episode. So there you go. We have a very poor use of Daredevil. I will say that at the very least, save for the fact that he banged She-Hulk for almost no reason and with literally no chemistry between the actors or the characters because no time is given for that to actually occur. What happened in this episode? Well, Jen is still an incompetent lawyer. The bad guy that she fought was no real bad guy at all. Crossbows? Why crossbows? And at least at that moment, mildly uncomfortable video being put up on a screen is enough to send her off the deep end and smash everything and so on. And then guys with laser guns suddenly show up out of nowhere because maybe that'll be explained in the last episode. They got 1 episode left to wrap this up. So, an episode where things happened, none of it made any sense, none of it was funny. I don't know what else to tell you. That's the show. And I can't wait till next week to find out what happens. But what do you guys have to say? Tall person, is this the big twist? People attacking She-Hulk because she's a woman? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Colleen Bernier, senior staff reporter and chief Florida correspondent Colleen Bernier, a crappy-looking Pepe. Yes, Leapfrog was a crappy-looking Pepe. Wasn't he, though? A little bit. Giraffe, she might lose her job that she was bad at, but did get an award for. I don't know. They really have done a very poor job of explaining any of this. You know? Like, I mean, what was the Female Lawyer of the Year award set up by the bad guys specifically to embarrass her? I guess? I mean, did they know that she was going to Hulk rage? And that's why those guys with the guns were there ahead of time? Like, how? What? Huh? I don't know. Enigma 500. The people who wrote this don't care that this universe would not have masks. It's topical, so they put it in the show. So I mean, if they're trying to make it like sort of outside of time and everything else, or outside of reality, okay. It just took me a second because my brain was kind of like, okay, they're people with masks on. That's just what happened in my head, but obviously, yeah. So who are the guys with the masks? I don't know. Are they the intelligentsia? I don't know. Their master plan was to shame her publicly, I guess. I should really... the dialogue... Can I follow in the dialogue for this? It's always a matter. The things that they said in the course of showing this. This is the truth presented by intelligentsia. Right? She-Hulk does not deserve your attention. She does not deserve your praise. She does not deserve the power she stole from the Hulk. She does not deserve your attention. She does not deserve your... Yeah. So, the entire time I'm thinking, is this another critique of what they assume the mindset of critics of this show would be by the time it came out? Because this seems like the third or fourth time now that they've decided to represent what they believe the mentality of the people watching this show or shows like it is. I have no other thought than that, because they've done it so many times so far. I can only assume that that's the case, I guess. So yeah, the intelligentsia is meant to represent, I suppose, people like me, who just hate her because she's a woman, hate her because she's not the Hulk. When I have the She-Hulk comic books that I loved as a kid because it was fun and she was funny and it was good art and good writing and it was offbeat compared to the other comic books, because it didn't take itself seriously, but it was still a superhero comic book with, character development and plot and some kind of logic one to the other, fourth wall breaking aside. But whatever. Anyway, does this damage Daredevil? Not really. I mean, it is so obvious that the material written for Charlie Cox and the character in this is so beneath the standard set by Netflix. That's embarrassing. I felt embarrassed for Charlie Cox that he had to act in this and read that dialogue. He did his best. He did his best, and he was still... It's a credit to him that he was able to make something so bland and bad mildly charming, but that just shows what an uphill battle he had going with what he was handed. The action scenes were pathetic. The Netflix set a standard for the character of Daredevil. Netflix set a standard. The least they could have done was take some of their millions of dollars they had to make this show and invest in some serious and decent fight choreography action sequence, at least for Daredevil, in a hallway scene. But instead we get one wall jump, a couple of punches, and then him just like throwing a guy with bad edits. Anyway, Terai Deos. Did I say that correctly, Terai? Tell me if I said that correctly. So all of these shows are rainbow-haired feminism fan fictions. Not all of them, but this one in particular definitely leans on it quite a bit. Women are always victims, women are always undervalued, men are always terrible and inherently insulting, microaggressions, yada yada yada. Terai, I got it right, yay! I'm always happy with myself because, names I'm not familiar with. I try to pronounce them as best as I can. And Colleen Bernier will have the last word. Can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. If I can talk today. You can call it chicken salad and serve it up to somebody. And then when they tell you this is the chicken salad, you can say, you're just being sexist. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. This went on a little bit longer than I thought it would, but of course the episode was surprisingly longer than it usually is. I'll be back here next week for the finale. Oh, heaven help me. And we'll see just how they decide to wrap up this amazing, epic story. If you'd like to hear more from me, I'll be on here tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another installment of TED Excellence, where I'll once again look at an off-brand TED Talk, now armed with the knowledge of the TEDx content guidelines, as we did in a previous stream this week. Tonight's episode is Loosening Your Grip on the Gender Binary. And it's told to us by a real doctor. A doctor of what? I'll tell you tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence. But until then, everybody, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody, thank you again. Hope you all have a good rest of your... What day is it now? I don't know what day it is. Thursday! That's right, Thursday. Have a good rest of your Thursday. Have a good rest of your week if I don't see you until then, and weekend. And I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.